So I think most people owning an aquarium has at some point been on Google and searched for the best algae eater. And if you ever came across the name Nerite snail, well then this video might be just for you. There are many different suggestions when it comes to the best fish or whatever that will take care of the algae in your tank. Now before we get into today's video, I just quickly want to tell you guys that I honestly think that it's better for you to look into why you're getting algae rather than researching what the best algae eater will be for you. Have you already done this, or do you just have a slight algae problem? Well then, you know what, a Nerite snail might be the right choice for you, and here's why. So besides just this snail, well then there's both geckos, there's shrimps, there are something like the Siamese algae-eater, flying fox. There's so many different choices when it comes to algae eaters. Now, I really want to argue that the Nerite snail is really the only choice you should go for if you don't mind having a snail or two in your aquarium, that is. The reason that I say this is simply because of the fact that if you take something like the flying fox or the Siamese algae-eater, well then those things actually tend to get insanely big, and I see so many people who stock them into 10-15 gallon tanks, and those tanks are just way too small to ever fit a flying fox, because that thing will grow to 17 centimeters easily, and it's just not going to be comfortable in your tank. It needs a very big tank, and some people just end up with a fish that's not comfortable, and then they have no idea how to get rid of it. And that's a shame both for the owner and the fish. Now, something like the Amano shrimp, or something like if you are suggested a pleco, auto, you name it, well, the good thing about those is that yes, they do eat algae. The bad thing about it is that they do not eat algae nearly as good as the Nerite snail does. Just to show you guys exactly how efficient the Nerite snail is at eating algae, well, I actually created a time lapse where I gave one Nerite snail 24 hours to eat up a little bottle aquarium that I made some time ago, and just see how much algae it could actually get rid of in that 24-hour span. Now, it's kind of awkward because I don't know why this happened, but actually the Nerite snail ended up, the only spot that it didn't eat was the part of the surface on the bowl that did face the camera. So everything else is completely cleaned. I'll just show you a couple of pictures as well if you don't believe me. But somehow it just didn't eat that specific surface that I turned towards the camera. And I don't know if it's because of the decoration in the aquarium, so it thinks it cannot get its shell through there. I don't know, but it was quite funny to see regardless. So I'm just gonna roll the time lapse and then we'll get back into the subject once you've seen that. Right, so as you can see, it's going to work pretty much constantly. Nerite snails rarely sleep. They don't need a lot of sleep. So they will be hunting for algae pretty much all the time. And algae is all they eat. It's all their diet consists of. So it's a really, really good choice in case you're looking for an algae eater. Now, first of all, the Nerite snail comes in many different varieties. There is zebra Nerite, there is tiger Nerite, there is black racer Nerite. There's just so many different choices. Which one you get doesn't really matter. It's just up to what you like, what you see fitting for your aquarium. They can be quite colorful, so if you're looking for a snail that can also be a color ornament in the aquarium, well, then that thing is actually a pretty good choice. Then you would choose something like, for example, the tiger Nerite. Then there's also the zebra Nerite, which is a bit more dull looking. You can go for something like the black colored Nerite snails. They don't really pop as much if you don't want them grabbing all of the attraction from all of your beautiful fish. Now, in the wild, the Nerite snail lives in brackish conditions. This is something that many people mistake for them having to have brackish water in order to survive, and this is simply not true. It is true, however, that the Nerite snail, if the eggs are gonna hatch, because the Nerite snail will lay some eggs even in your freshwater tank, well, those eggs will not hatch because that actually needs to be brackish water to turn into anything, but they will hatch even when it is in freshwater, or they will not hatch, but they will lay eggs even in freshwater. So these eggs can be a bit annoying to look at, and they are surprisingly hard to get rid of, to be honest. So it is something you'll have to live with. I have personally not experienced my Nerites lay eggs where I can see them, so it hasn't been a problem. They do thrive, however, in a wide variety of temperatures. Around 70 to 80 Fahrenheit is a fair deal, and that is also where most aquarium tanks are heated to, so they should fit in pretty much any environment. And as long as you just don't have a pH that completely goes nuts to the low or the high end, well, then you're also going to be safe there. Now, I did mention that these guys are brackish, but they can thrive in both marine water but also freshwater. It is a bit like the Amano shrimp, which can also transfer from marine water to brackish to freshwater. They simply have mechanisms inside their body, meaning that they can adapt to the environment that they are in, so you will not hurt them if you put them in freshwater. The thing about Nerite snails is that they can be somewhat sensitive to water parameters, especially nitrate. People have reported that they will react to if your nitrate spikes. So make sure that you put them in a cycle tank. Don't put them in a tank that has not been going for a bit of time, because they cannot be there to boost the bacteria culture or whatever. Put them in once it's cycled, just like you would do with your fish. Now, regarding the amount of Nerite snails, I would say if you keep around 1 to 2 snails per 10 gallons, then you're gonna be just fine. You can even put 3 if you go to a 20 gallon, but you really don't need a lot of them because they put in so much work. And if you overstock them, well, then you're also probably going to have the trouble with the amount of eggs that they will lay all around the place. But I find that having just 1 Nerite snail in each of my tanks keeps whatever algae might be coming pretty much completely at bay. They are super efficient. Once you get the Nerite snails in your tank, like I said, I had a buddy who is around a year old now, and he's been thriving ever since. They can live for around 2 years in case you treat them well, and by treating them well, serve them algae and they'll be fine. Now, since they tend to eat quite a lot of algae, it's also important to remember that the bioload coming from a Nerite snail can be quite high, and that is simply just because they eat a lot, so they will defecate a lot. It all adds up, but again, have good filtration, and you'll probably have good filtration in case you're trying to fight that algae, because that is another good thing against algae, but that is something for different videos. We're not going to get too much into that today. Now, another good thing about the Nerite snail is the fact that the fish, wow, it's a snail, not a fish, that the snail functions pretty much perfectly with any tank mate you put it together with. Now, if you look at something like, for example, very, very big predators, well, then there's a chance that they will get eaten. I have no experience with these, so I cannot tell you for sure. But if you put them together with pretty much any fish around their size or ever so slightly bigger, well, then there won't be any issues. If a fish has a mouth big enough to swallow that thing, well, then they more than likely will. So you will need quite a big fish in order to eat a Nerite snail, because they will grow to around ½ an inch or the like. So it is a rather big snail. I've had it with something like bettas, and it's quite funny to observe how the betta can every once in a while feel like the snail is a threat, you know, so it puffs up and it's like, here I am. fear me, and the snails just don't care. I've had a lot of fun observing this behavior, and it's also good stimulation for your betta because they will need the stimulation from tank mates, and often your betta is kept alone. So a Nerite snail together with a betta, for example, is a pretty good choice. Now in my tanks there is also something like there's tetras, epistogrammas, German blue rams. The bottom tank is actually brackish, so we have a figure 8 puffer down there. They're also doing fine together. The figure 8 puffer does not have big enough of a mouth to eat that thing, so it hasn't even tried, to be honest. It doesn't bother about the Nerite at all, which is also super funny to watch. Do, however, keep in mind that something like the assassin snail will actually eat your Nerites, and yes, the Nerite is way bigger than the assassin snail, but the assassin snail eats any snail it can get a hold of, so if it gets to your Nerite, it will eat it. That is the only thing you want to keep an eye out for. So if you've had previous snail issues, well then, if you did treat that with an assassin snail, reconsider if you want to get yourself a Nerite snail. Well, it's at least something that you want to see if you can work out one way or the other. But having said that though, sometimes there is a good relation between the fact that you have a lot of algae and you have a lot of snails. This could, for example, be overfeeding, but this is again for a different video. So let me know if you want that video, and that is pretty much all I have for you guys for today on the Nerite snail and my recommendation for the best algae eater for your tank, because, you know, leave the fish. Get yourself some good looking fish. Of course, if you like the flying fox and you have the appropriate size for it, get it. If you like the other syncloses, get it. But do know that at the end of the day, I've never seen a better algae eater than the Nerite snail. So I hope you guys can put this to good use. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.